making head coaching moves. The Magic firing coach Frank Vogel. Vogel was 54-110 in 2 seasons in Orlando. Now the Magic finished with the 5th worst record in the league this season. The Magic aren't the only ones making moves. The Knicks fired head coach Jeff Hornacek and associate head coach Kurt Rambis earlier this morning. The Knicks won less than 37% of their games under Hornacek, who lasted just 2 seasons in New York. The Knicks are used to turnover at the coaching position. Their next head coach will be their 11th since Jeff Van Gundy resigned in 2001, the most in the NBA in that stretch. They've won just 40% of their games in that span, the worst winning percentage in the NBA. Now, back to First Take.
That is no bueno. The Knicks fired Jeff Hornacek and Kurt Rambis. Hornacek's record was 60-104 over the last 2 seasons with the Knicks. Stephen A., who do you think should be the next head coach of the Knicks?
I've been on the record on my radio show, Stephen A. Smith radio show on ESPN Radio every weekday from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I said it yesterday. I said it a couple of weeks ago. I said it several months ago. I'll say it again. The season obviously was going to end April 11th. I said I expected Jeff Hornacek to be fired within 12 hours of the season ending. That happened. And now by next week, I expect the New York Knicks to name Mark Jackson as the new head coach for the franchise. I'm not talking about insider information. I'm talking about preference. I'm talking about the decision that needs to be made for the best interest of this New York Knicks franchise. And one of the reasons that I've said this, and I'll say this religiously, and I'll keep on saying it until the cows come home, the New York Knicks job is not just about coaching. It's about James Dolan. It's about Cablevision. It's about Madison Square Garden and the conglomerate that it is, and how the business interest at hand puts its heavy hand down upon the basketball and the hockey franchise. We understand all of that it entails. At the end of the day, you can't just bring in somebody even if they just know how to coach. Jeff Hornacek is not a bad coach. He's not a bad person. He just needs to be in another city, because he couldn't do anything to galvanize folks and gravitate folks towards the New York Knicks franchise, because the New York Knicks franchise has just stripped you of any faith or any hope whatsoever. I believe in Steve Mills. I believe in Scott Perry. I believe that they could do the job so long as they're allowed to do it in the dark, that they're not front and center, that they can't be the individuals that have to be the spokespeople for the franchise. James Dolan certainly can't do it, because nobody wants to hear a word from him. They want him to cut the check and then go about his business and play his guitar. That's what they want from James Dolan. They don't want to hear anything from James Dolan. He's been out, since he's been patrolling the franchise regular season-wide, record-wise, is the worst. Everybody knows this. And so when we take that into consideration, what do you need? Take into account last year. Phil Jackson, his last year, before he officially stole money from the franchise, he was unofficially stealing money from them by not doing a damn thing when he was president of the franchise. He would talk in September, then he would disappear until April, leaving Carmelo Anthony to shoulder the load of having to play and speak on the team's behalf on a night-in, night-out basis, which was an exercise in neglect and cruelty, the likes of which we don't see too often. So what do you have to do? That coach has to be the spokesperson. It can't be a player. It can't be Spike Lee. It can't be a Steve Mills or a Scott Perry. Saying is the truth, because they trust them. Mark Jackson, Queens, New York, O'Connell Park, St. John's University under Lou Carnesecca, Rookie of the Year under Rick Pitino for the New York Knicks. This man is all about New York, okay? Except when he's enjoying the sunshine of Los Angeles like the rest of us when we part from New York City. He's a New Yorker.
Yeah, you can say that about a lot of people on this show.
That's right. We need him in New York City. Mark Jackson has to be the next head coach for the New York Knicks.
I remember that rookie year. Oh, did I love me some Mark Jackson. Put him with Patrick Ewing, and the future looked so bright, Stephen A. It didn't turn out that way exactly, but we had visions of championships dancing in our heads. And look, Mark Jackson is excellent at not only developing young talent, but creating like a bunker mentality around that talent. You know, like what Phil Jackson talks about, the steps of team building, us against the world. Definitely he can do that, and you're right about everything you said about him in New York and the love he has in New York and all of that. But off the court, what the Knicks do not need is more paranoia throughout the organization. And reportedly, that was an issue in Golden State. Not just that the offense was stagnant. I mean, he developed these incredible young players, instilled them with confidence. He deserves credit for all that. But look at the numbers. They had a stagnant offense. And when Steve Kerr showed up, it exploded in Golden State. Now, you can say Mark Jackson never really had the chance to take the next step with them. That's a fair comment to make. But, you know, this is not that. Joining the Knicks is not, now he's going to see if he can useful. In a paranoid culture already, the New York Knicks have a dysfunctional culture because James Dolan is a dysfunctional owner. That's why. And by the way, Stephen A., I've dealt with the Knicks and their PR, etc. I've done New York radio. I did it for years. And dealing with the Knicks was a terrible experience, dealing with their PR. They were paranoid. They were unhelpful. They wanted you to only propagandize for the Knicks. And you have to explain it's not the way this works.
For Dolan.
Yes, that's Dolan. Right, no doubt. You know it too. And they didn't like hearing no. Right. They didn't like hearing. And they also didn't even like cooperation. You say, okay, I'll cooperate with you a little bit. We'll do this because I was a huge Knicks fan. I like talking the Knicks up, but then this is what we need in return. There's nothing in return. We'd like to talk to this player, this coach, nothing. So, and they want you to just propagandize for them. It's a terrible franchise run by maybe the worst owner in sports, certainly one of them, born on third base, thought he hit a triple, has done nothing except lose, and was handed the franchise by his daddy, who built the whole thing up. So under those circumstances, you want to bring in a coach who has a reputation of building a paranoid culture? Look, as much as I love Mark Jackson, and it's not that I would object, everything you said about him is true. There's a ton of love for him in New York. Let me give you a better coaching candidate for the Knicks.
Okay.
Fizdale, who comes in as a beloved figure in the NBA, players like him. He'd be good for attracting free agents and does not have that same reputation of creating a paranoid culture.
Well, let me say this. There's a couple of candidates that I think we need to consider. Mark Jackson. But that is the last time the New York Knicks won a division crown, and he was the coach. And the very next year was when Tyson Chandler's mom was going through all that she went through. He never practiced with the team, would literally fly in and out on a private jet because Dolan's good for that. He'll take care of his people now, and he'll cut the check. It's just that his presence is disastrous when it comes to the game of basketball. We understand that. Having said all of that, here's why. And listen, if Luke Walton wasn't working out in L.A., I'd tell you Fizdale was great for L.A. You know why Fizdale doesn't work for New York? Why did he leave? Why is he out of Memphis? Management. Because of some of the things, some of the decisions that they were making, how much that he felt they interfered, how much he felt that they worked against the interest of trying to build something, etc. Fizdale is credible. Fizdale can coach his butt off. Fizdale knows the game of basketball and deserves to be a head coach in New York. But he doesn't deserve New York ahead of Mark Jackson because, again, New York Knicks' job is not just about coaching basketball. Because of the residue of James Dolan and all that's been associated with him as it pertains strictly to the New York Knicks, when you're talking about a fan base, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I got to get a towel and wipe a tear from the face of Spike Lee. I mean, this is my buddy here. I'm getting to the point where I feel so bad for him. Don't get me started how I feel about myself. New York Knicks have had me depressed for the last several years. I'm telling you, you need a coach that can be a spokesperson.
Last several years.
Well, you can say that.
About your whole, they've had me depressed my whole life. Gave me some hope during the Patrick Ewing era.
Well, they gave me some hope against when they lost to the Pacers. When they lost to the Pacers with Carmelo Anthony. I thought they should have won that series. I actually thought they should have won that series.
They weren't going. That team wasn't going to do anything. Stephen A., do you like Mark Jackson personally? I mean,
of course.
Right. And you're rooting for him as a New Yorker, correct?
Absolutely.
And you believe, as many do, that he wasn't given a chance to show exactly what he could do in Golden State. In other words,
to finish the job.
Everyone acknowledges he built that up, and then the only really debate was, could he actually then take that team to the next level or not? whatever side of the debate you fall on that next level argument, we all agree he wasn't given the chance, so we'll never actually know. Okay, if you believe all those things, why would you wish the Knicks on Mark Jackson? Like, you're making the argument that Mark Jackson can deflect some of the stuff from Dolan and deal with it, and he's a name and he gets love. Knicks ain't going to win anything.
Max,
why would you wish that on Mark Jackson?
I can answer that question. As foolish as this may sound to you, because it would never happen. You know what? Let me be very, very clear about something. I'm a native New Yorker. I happen to love my job. I happen to get paid a pretty decent penny to do my job, more than most of the executives in the NBA. But if the New York Knicks called me to be the president of the franchise, I'd have to consider it. Why? Because I'm a New Yorker, and I'm sick and tired of the disgusting product that has been put on the floor. And so anybody that loves the Knicks franchise, that loves New York, that loves basketball, that has seen how the product has regressed for so many years and all of this other stuff, that's where your heart is. And what I'm saying to you is that when it comes to Mark Jackson, that's something that James Dolan wouldn't be able to usurp. You get somebody like that to be a spokesperson for your franchise, so we never have to hear from James Dolan again. And if James Dolan wants nothing else, I promise you he wants that more than anything, where he gets to just hide and be away from everything while somebody else is in the eye of the storm. Steve Mills and Scott Perry are not going to do that for you. They can be executives, but they need to operate in the dark. You have to have a face for this franchise. And there is only one person that New Yorkers are going to gravitate to, give the benefit of the doubt, and give a chance to, and his name is Mark Jackson. It is that simple.
It appears right now it would be Fizdale or Mark Jackson. Both seem to be pretty good options. We will keep you updated, of course, on that.
Fizdale's a damn good coach. Damn good coach.
All right, we'll leave it there, guys. They've given us 3 memorable finals in a row, but is it actually possible that neither the Cavs or Warriors play in June this season? Somebody thinks so. And Martellus Bennett makes very interesting comments about marijuana use in the NFL. Don't miss the shocking number of players that he believes use this drug.
What I tried to tell y'all, Scott told Z, and that's what